these are people who have never won a day in their life wanting for anything. You know, you look at people like John Boehner, Paul Ryan, Rand Paul, Eric Cantor, Mitch McConnell. You know, these are people that have been working for the federal government the majority of their adult life. They haven't held any private sector jobs of any sort for any length of time, and have leached and sucked everything they could out of the federal government. You know, Rand Paul, the libertarian guy, he wants to get rid of the federal government, but he keeps drawing that same check from the federal government that he gets every month or every year, however he gets paid. $174,000 is a lot of money. You know, I don't know too many Americans that make that kind of money, period. On a day-to-day, on a yearly basis, consistently. So for them to argue that the minimum wage is going to destroy jobs has to be, you know, fabricated. It can't be anything but a lie. The minimum wage, you know, you go back to 25 cents an hour in the 1950s to $7.25 in 2013. There's only been a gain of $7 through all of these years. You know, I hadn't even took the time to look at the military pay scale to see what it is today, but I'm pretty sure that it's no more than about $70 or $80 a day. You know, for the young men who's doing, you know, the security and the protection of the nation. And overseas, you know, you get a few extra dollars, might pump it up to $100, $125 a day, you know, because you get hazardous duty pay, combat pay, and so forth and so on. But in general, the middle class, the lower middle class, and the poor is struggling to survive because no one is willing to pay them a livable wage. You know, I don't know, you know, people who have a lot of money, who are somewhat wealthy, don't seem to have to worry about a lot. You know, they have the big houses and the nice cars, and they live in these fancy subdivisions, you know, pushed off somewhere, gated. You know, no one can get in to see what's going on up in there, and if they find someone in there, they get locked up or whatever. They don't seem to understand that the average person on the average day wakes up at 4, 5, or 6 o'clock in the morning, gets dressed, and trudge out to a job, and they spend the majority of that day, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours on that job. Then they have to come back to their residence, or their home, you know, by way of some interstate, and in a lot of places they're crammed, jammed, you know, so you spend a good 13 hours or 14 hours a day at work and trying to get home from work. Get to and from work. So for anyone to say that the minimum wage that is being earned by a person working a low wage job, a minimum wage job, is livable, has to be lost out in space. The other thing is, if we paid people, if we paid the people who work in America the proper wage, we wouldn't need food stamps, we wouldn't need Medicare or Medicaid, we wouldn't need Medicaid,
Medicare is pretty much for the elderly people like myself, who have worked over the years and paid into that for years, all of our working adult years. But we wouldn't need food stamps, we wouldn't need Medicaid, and a lot of the other housing benefits that people get. You know, a lot of these programs we would not need if
corporations and employers would pay their people a living wage. You know, the price increases on goods, commodities, and fuel and stuff is going to keep up with the wages. You know, every time a person gets a pay raise, whether they realize it or not, things that they have to purchase and buy to survive also gets an increase by a percentage or 2% or whatever. You get a 5% raise, what you're going to be buying in the store is going up by at least 1 or 2% levels. So the gains that you're making are minimal, but at least with a decent wage, a person can, you know, survive and maybe be comfortable with a decent wage. Now, a lot of people, you know, and I can't blame them. I can't blame them, you know, because I hear a lot of the young folks that I talk to, you know, they talk about, man, I can't go out there and work for that. You know, I can't take care of I can't pay my car note, I can't pay my rent, I can't pay, you know, for my apartment, I can't pay my cell phone bill, I can't pay anything working for that. So what do they resort to? A life of crime. Dealing a $5 bag of marijuana. You can sell more marijuana in a day than you can make on any minimum wage job. You know, at $7.25, hell, you sell 10 bags of marijuana, you done made that money for the day. You know, I don't know if it's $5 bags of marijuana or $10 bags or whatever it is, but whatever it is, the people that selling it on the street corners are doing better than the people who's trying to make a living honestly. But you know, a lot of the young men that I've talked to will tell you in a minute, man, I can't work for those $7.25 an hour. I can't afford to live on that. I can't make it on that. You know, and then a lot of them will work, but they have their side hustle selling some form of drugs. But our politicians are willing to say that that's not needed. The increases are not needed. Mainly because they don't know what happens down here at the bottom. They don't live in the communities that are subjugated to low wages and food stamps and all of that stuff. But they can make decisions about it without knowing all of the facts, because they don't want it to happen. You know, people being hungry is not important to them because they're not hungry. And if you're not hungry, why in the hell you want to worry about somebody else being hungry? That's just the facts of it. Thanks for viewing these two video posts. God bless you. God bless America. Ciao.